Hello. How are
Hello.
you?
Well, it's nice to be seeing you again.
Be seeing you.
It's a
Oh my
salute.
god, this is the last episode on my channel.
We have come to it. Well, we're going to be doing other things.
Yeah. But this is the last prisoner episode.
Yeah, and
on the channel. Well, the 60s prisoner.
the 60s prisoner. I want to say first of all, I got to give Jason Spriggs, our graphic designer, a shout out because he lost power yesterday.
Oh,
He lives in Florida, and he didn't know whether he was going to get our graphics to us. But once again, he knocked it out of the park.
Incredible. It's just incredible. I love this one. I love McGowan's expressive face on the left, and then the very placid nature of Leah McKern over on the right-hand side. We've got Rover in the middle, in the chair. Little Rover, baby Rover. The cage, of course, which plays such an important part in this episode. Oh, my goodness me. This is amazing, this episode.
It is an amazing episode. And
God damn.
Revisiting it again, this episode is not nearly as ambiguous as I remembered it being, but yet it is.
I found it very clear when I watched it back.
Very much so. And it just, I remember being young watching this. When I first watched The Prisoner, I was probably like 12 when I watched. And I found, of course, like many people, these last two episodes maddening because we as an audience are expected when you're watching these things to get what I would call a more traditional narrative for the end. And, as I've gotten older and revisited specifically this episode, Degree Absolute, aka Once Upon a Time, I like this episode more and more the more I watch it.
Yes.
And it's interesting because as I've moved through my own life, as we watch a man moving through his life throughout this hour-long episode, I find that there's something poetic about that. As I've moved through my own life, I come to understand Once Upon a Time more and more.
No, I'm the same as you. When I first watched this episode, I was 15 years old. I was scratching my head at what on earth was going on.
Right.
I have no life experience, and I'm watching a guy go through his life.
Go through his life in an hour.
Yeah, in an hour, yeah. And the only part that I can sort of relate to is the school, but not so much because it's 30 years, in the past sort of thing. So, there was just a matter of life experience, which has got to happen to appreciate this. I think you've got to be over 40 to sort of really get an appreciation for this episode. And I'm not patronizing people, you don't at all, but I just think there's this sort of inbuilt inherent life which needs to happen, and then you can really sort of. There were some very poignant parts in this episode. There were some very specific parts that I picked up on which I hadn't before, which I'm keen to discuss with you. I love the ending. Leah McKern at the end is just. And you've got to bear in mind, people, that McGowan's already gone through a mental breakdown by this point. And he sent Leo McKern into a mental breakdown doing this episode. Leo McKern would go back to his trailer and just cry. He'd just cry, feeling that he was just getting bullied by McGowan, and he couldn't go on set for some of the recording because he was just broken. So I think they had to give him a week or 2 weeks or something, or they had to give him it's either a week or 2 weeks or a few days, but they had to give him like a bit of time to recompose himself to come back to record this episode. But this is one of the greatest things I think about this episode is this is theater,
right? That's what's so great. And look, the fact that Shakespeare himself is quoted numerous times, obviously, I don't know if this is true for me or for Brits, but as a Yank, to me, I consider Shakespeare one of the cornerstones of British culture.
Oh, absolutely.
And the quotes that are used are so, we are all but, players.
Shakespeare, Dickens, they wonderful.
All of these things. And to see, actors come out of the theater and to see, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge right up front that Patrick McGoohan wrote and directed this episode. Mm-hmm. So this is uncut, unfiltered McGoohan. And
this is McGoohan's life. That's why.
Yeah, it's amazing.
His daughter, Catherine, when she first saw Degree Absolute, I'm probably going to refer to it as Degree Absolute. That's what it was meant to be called anyway. When she saw that, she was like, "Oh my God, this is my dad's life." He's literally, he's written, he's so lost in the show that he's now written himself. He is number 6. McGoohan and number 6 are now the same person. And I mean, sure, the mental anguish that he went through making this was crazy, but my God. And my only, not regret, my only frustration, let's say, is if Fallout could have done the same, if Fallout could have nailed this, the same surrealism that he brought here, then my God, Fallout would have been a hell of a finale. But I think he tried, because there's like a year's difference between Degree Absolute and Fallout,
right?
Of recording and whatnot.
I mean, I think people should understand that a lot of people cite these as like a 2-part episode, but they're not. And that this episode, Degree Absolute, was filmed at a much different time in the life of the series where McGoohan was, and it's and this wasn't supposed to be the second to the last episode of the series, I don't believe.
I think it was meant to, yeah.
But always when they shot it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, what do I know? But but I do think that the way that this is done, because it is so theatrical, it's also, I think, a commentary on not just this show, but like you said, McGoohan as an actor, all the actors, McKern and McGoohan. I mean, the fact that it's on stage is very telling. And I think that there's a lot to that. And it really, I think it works beautifully. And it's funny because, I keep noticing things when I watch these, that the idea of doing theatrical episodes of television, I can't help but think about Star Trek. There were 2 episodes in the final season of Star Trek in season 3. There was the Empath and, of course, Spectre of the Gun, the Western episode, that were basically shot on a stage, very theatrical. And I'm wondering, I'm sure there was probably episodes of Mission Impossible or other shows that did kind of this same surreal being on a stage thing, because it's a way to save money, but on the other hand, it's also a beautiful way to immediately put an audience in a certain mindset that you're willing to believe and watch anything. Like it's really, and this episode, by the way, is beautifully directed by McGoohan. The use of close-ups and low-angle shots. I mean, the shots of number 2 and number 2 and number 6 face to face. Sometimes they're face to face, sometimes they're inverted if one of them's lying on it's just, I love all of it, and it's just beautifully done. We have, I'm going to go into old man shouts at cloud modes now. We have all these special effects in movies today. We have 68,000 Avengers twatting each other, and 58 billion Chinese people creating the graphics for that, so that we can sit in the theater and just go, And this is 2 men in an intimate setting, giving everything that they have, and I get more out of watching this episode than any Avengers film. Any superhero film, any AAA blockbuster movie with the special effects, because this speaks to you as a person. Well, but also more importantly, you have to take some of yourself into this as an audience member. When you watch a movie like The Avengers, you sit back and you're like, I'm in my chair, give it to me, give it to me.
Entertain me, yeah.
But with this, you as an audience member have to walk into it and you have to bring some of yourself and meet this halfway. This is entertainment that you need to work at. And I love it for that reason.
Yeah, it's cerebral television, as we used to call it. I don't know how many years it's been since I can call TV that. But this is what we used to call cerebral television. This is food for thought. This is television that you have to think about, but not think about in a hey, it's time to knuckle down and do your homework sort of way. You hit on it that you transplant yourself into various situations here, even though they're completely different to obviously what's going on here. But you can transplant yourself into a position where you got in trouble at school, or how did you handle it? Did you tattletale? Did you confess? Did you deny? Did you play dumb? So you can put yourself into one of those situations and sort of relive an event. Same with work, your first job. What could you bring? That whole interview process, what it felt like to go through it, then what it felt like to be accepted and get the job. So there's just various little elements which we'd probably just squirreled away at the back of our minds for a lot of it, and then suddenly this is an episode which brings it out into the forefront. But I think more importantly, specific to the episode, we just have this incredible battle of wills of what I would call obviously number 6 and a fallen number 6.
Right.
And I think that's what's really fascinating about their battle is they were both good men. And one of them fell. And the person who fell was Leo McKern's number 2. And so we see what would happen if number 6 breaks. We would see how he would become the number 2, how he would become the manipulator, how he would become the person who dictates, who pulls the strings, or we'll see the man be resolute, which is what we do. And there's little tricks that number 2 tries to play, and there's responses to those tricks that McGowan has. Is there anything kind of general you want to say before we get into these kind of like specifics of the episode?
Well, I do think like I love the concept of degree absolute. The reason, obviously it's mentioned as degree absolute, it's seen as a last ditch effort. It is something they don't take lightly. And I love at the beginning of this episode, the whole setup, how you see McKern on the phone saying he needs permission.
Yeah.
He needs permission for degree absolute. And I love the setup. And he tells everybody, you're like on triple overtime. We're here 24/7, people, all hands on deck, and you see the people getting ready for it. And it's a very serious thing. But again, what I also do love is they cannot fight number 6 directly on his own level. Never. They've never been able to come at him. They're always either trying to drug him, they're trying to trick him, because he's already beat them. And in this case, with degree absolute, they regress him to childhood, to when he's almost a baby, an infant. They infantilize him immediately. And as this happens, one of my favorite things is the cut when they bring him in to the room where this is all going to take place, and he has an ice cream in his hand, and it's like, okay, it's go time, and that because at first you're like, what are they doing to him? And then you realize that they've reverted him back, to his childhood, because they're going to take him through his whole life and see if they can uncover what it is they need to uncover, this elusive information. Maybe they'll figure out why, and that'll lead them to something about him, when really, if you watch the show, they should already know these things, that he's not going to break and he's not going to give these things up. And he is, number 6 is a man. He is who he is. He is not hiding. It is not a pain in his past or necessarily that he was abused by his parents. He was forged like steel throughout all of his experiences. And I don't think number 6 is a man. He's like Kirk in Star Trek 5. I need my pain. You know, McGowan's is at peace. I mean, number 6 is at peace with who he is and as a person. And I think it's reinforced by this episode.
Well, that's why I think they regress him. Because I think they're trying to work out what built him.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to see and they think, but they think that what built him, they're going to find a chink in his armor.
Yeah, well, exactly. And what they get is resolute.
That's exactly. And they see that I think they're proceeding under this false assumption.
You're a fool. I'm a fool, but I'm not a rat.
I'm not a rat. It's so good. So that's all. I love the setup of this. And I love where it begins. And to me, the episode, it's go time when he's licking that ice cream cone. You know, and he's
yeah.
You know, and
kind of like, what is going on? And yeah, it's wonderful. So let's go back to the beginning of the episode for this one, because I think it's the whole, even before they go into the cage, shall we say, even before they go into the cage, there's such a theatrical aspect to this episode all round.
Well, the Rover?
Well, with the way I was going to say, the way that Anton Muscat brings in the Angelo Muscat brings in the food, very deliberately puts it all out. The chair turns, instead of number 2 being in the chair, there's a mini Rover.
I wanted to ask you, you know, I always forget that. And there's something so what I love about the Rover and the chair is that it seems that's the way it always should have been. Like, Rover belongs in that chair. He fits perfectly in that chair. And it's almost like we've been seeing, you know, with these number 2s that are constantly changing. I know this is, maybe it's in my own mind, but when I saw it today, I'm like, wow, now that chair seems to be complete, you know, as if Rover has always supposed to have been there, but never has been. If the shoe fits,
the chair's round.
I know. And I just, when I saw it, it's like, now it's a giant eye, whatever, the eye of Sauron, whatever you want to call it. It just struck me as like, oh, it's finally together again.
To me, this beginning bit really made me think about Chimes of Big Ben.
Oh yeah,
because you got Rover in the chair, and then you have the wonderful angle of the camera for Leo McKern to come up through the floor, and he's looking disgruntled. He's looking irritated, maybe because he knows really the task at hand, but I think there's something a little bit more. He tastes the food. He says, "Take this!" Shouts to take it away.
Except the coffee.
Butler, the butler's not too sure, and then he barks it again, and he picks up the phone and he says, "What's he doing in here? I'm not a prisoner." And I was like, "Yes, you are." You said it yourself in Chimes of Big Ben. You said it yourself when you were sat with number 2 at the with number 6 at the beach, and number 6 turns to him and says, "You're just as much as prisoner as I am." And he said, "I know. No, we're both I know." He says, "We're both lifers, but the thing is, you got a broken number 6 here, not our number 6, Leo McKern, somebody who was a good man that fell." And him in his mind, even he just has that little bit that's just like, I'm working for this. I can't be the prisoner now. But he knows he is the prisoner. So in his moments of irritability, in his moments of vulnerability, he knows that. But when he's got the bravado and he's locking horns with number 6, he doesn't mind. Oh, you know, we're equals. We're on parity with each other. It doesn't matter which side is the right side, as he said in Chinese Big Ben. So I think there was so much callback to Chinese Big Ben with that, just that little bit, which kind of reflected a lot about Leo McKern's character. And he's just looking at the screen and he's just shouting, why'd you care? Why'd you care? Why'd you care? And then he picks up the phone, why'd you care? I recognize the voice. I've been here before.
Yeah, well, not only that, but with Rover too, we've seen Rover. Rover is supposed to bring back people that have tried to escape, and Rover's not in the world anymore. Rover's sitting in number 2's chair. So who is Rover watching?
He's watching number 2.
He's watching number 2. The Eye of Sauron, is looking over, and its gaze is no longer focused outward. It's right in the middle of HQ. And who is it looking at? As number 2 is looking still at number 6, pacing like a cat. Because
it's been said time and time again, the real boss is number 1. And everyone else is expendable. And we've seen it all throughout the series, from regular villagers through to number 2s. Everybody is expendable. And even number 6, for the first legitimate time, becomes expendable in this episode. It's either kill or be killed. We either win or we lose him now. So, the exchange was just so good. Then I think doesn't McGowan say, "You'll never know" as well, when he says, "Why do you care? You'll never know."
You'll never know. It's great.
And it's just like, God damn. So, then we have him looking through the file. Then we have McKern asking permission. He says, it's got to be degree absolute. It's got to be. And I think he wants more time for it, but they're like, a week.
Yeah, that was like, does it take a year?
It's like, does it take a few months? How much time is this really meant to take? But it's like, we'll give you a week. So I think the odds were stacked slightly against McKern in this one, but he's like, right, fine. Because he said, if I fail, or if you're going to get a better number 2 than me. And he does say, I'm a good man. I was a good man. And I think he sort of corrects himself. And I was a good man. I was a good man. Because he realizes he fell. We'll get more about where Leo McKern came from in Fallout next week. Because of the endings, there's good elements of Fallout. There's very confusing elements.
Yeah,
but there are good elements of Fallout. And then they stick the drugs on him and they stick the lights on him. Now, what was great with the light situation, of course, is he says, number 1, go 1 to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we get the point. It says, now slower, but hold at 5. So he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5. And it was quite interesting, of course, because later on, we're going to get McKern's going to try and normalize the number 6. And McGowan's going to refuse to accept its normalization. And that's a very important part. So the fact that even the supervisor's hanging on 5, just to me, was a little taste of things to come. You can get to 5, but you're not going to get to 6.
And I love that, because it, again, talk about it hearing him repeating 5 and over again, that's surreal in itself. Like, you as a viewer, like, you're waiting, like, well, just say number 6, just say it.
Yeah,
but he can't, in the way he's and that guy too, the way that the supervisor. I love the supervisor. I love the way he looks, and obviously he's in the beginning of this episode and he's at the end of this episode.
Yes,
and to me, he's the ultimate. Like I said once, I think I called him Lando Calrissian's Lobot on Empire State, on Cloud City and Bespin. He's like the Lobot of the. He is loyal. He's not loyal to number 2.
No,
he's loyal to the village, and he's loyal to number 1. And it's great. I just love that. He's one of the most intriguing secondary characters in television for me. That Supervisor, like, is he married?
Yeah. I just want to quickly address the chat. As always, we'll do the super chats after we've had like the bulk discussion of the episode, because this is such a wonderful and obviously an episode that just desires to be discussed. If you want to get your questions in, and then we'll go through everything after the discussion. Just to make you all aware. This Supervisor is the Supervisor. When I think of the Supervisor, there's been a couple of different ones just here or there, but this is the one that's been in through the most part. And his loyalty is to the system. His loyalty is not to a specific person. His loyalty is to the what the establishment that they've built. This is Korea Man right here. This is the person who has found his niche in society. He's found his place in society, and he relishes it.
Oh yeah,
absolutely relishes it. This is the person who gets to see all, but ultimately doesn't really have to take the responsibility for it. Just has to pass on the information. That's all he has to do. So we get McKern. They put the flashy light thing over number 6 to regress him. It's obviously a lengthy process because McKern stays overnight.
Mm-hmm.
We have this really bizarre set of nursery rhymes. The first one just kind of sounds like McKern not being able to sing particularly well, but then when he gets to Jack and Jill, he's screeching it, Jack and Jill went up, and it's just like whoa, what is going on here? This is quite freaky stuff. And then he falls asleep on the chair in the hallway as number 6 is getting reverted back and down, and then the drawing of the curtains in the morning, and it's come on time to go. You want to go walkies? Because we got baby number 6,
baby number 6.
Yeah,
I like the use of I saw it as the nursery rhymes is obviously trigger words that they're using. It's part of the regression process, but I like the fact that it is nursery rhymes, because those are things that you grow out of. Like, it's not like you can read comic books as a kid, and as adults we do, and we buy our Hot Toys figures and all that, but nursery rhymes are something that remain in childhood until you start telling them to children of your own. It's not something we take with us. So I thought that was a cool way to use as to revert him back, like this succession of, and I wanted to look into it. I'm like, these different nursery rhymes, is there something that all 3 of them, does it mean something that they're picking those?
Oh yeah, there was a theme. Didn't you see the theme?
Well, I mean, in terms of like the theme was there, but I meant like when they were written, who wrote them, because
right.
Like, was there some kind of not just the theme, but the reason, because they do quote Shakespeare, and I'm like, who wrote these nursery rhymes? Like, I wanted to go back and find out. I
thought the nursery rhymes were very prophetic of what was to come.
Oh, absolutely, they are.
You got Humpty Dumpty.
Absolutely.
Sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. So you have the destruction of the person. You have the destruction, the dismantling of the ego. Let's just say.
But the thing is, were those nursery rhymes more about number 2?
Oh yeah, that was Leo McKern. To me, that's Leo McKern being broken.
Yeah, and it's these are the ones that he remembers, and that's why he gets like so angry saying them. And
you got Humpty Dumpty, that's Leo McKern's number 2. Then you got Jack and Jill, who's number 6 and number 2.
Yes,
Jack and Jill go up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after.
The two of them are that's exactly what's going to happen.
Two are going to lock, one's going to fall.
It's good stuff. Now,
the Grand Old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill, and he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. One up, one down. There was all this sort of parallel. These parallels between the two of them. These almost power trips between the two of them. Ultimately, always resulting in one falling.
Sure, absolutely,
great stuff.
Yeah, I did not know the York. I didn't know the marching up and marching down. That was not a familiar. Even now, it's not a familiar nursery rhyme.
The Grand Old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill, and they marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down.
See, who's the Duke of York? We don't have dukes. We don't have
Grand Old Duke of York. It was actually based on a true person.
Yeah, I'm sure. We just didn't have that one in America.
Yeah, it's just, somebody's already Googling, who was the Grand Old Duke of York in the nursery? And then it's going to be a comment in the comment section very soon. So the nursery rhymes were, Siri, shut up. Not talking to you, talking to Robert. She wants to really get involved. I'm going to turn her beady fucking ears off. Oh yeah, I've got my signed copy, by the way, of Will Jordan's book. Critical Drinker. There you go, folks. If you haven't seen that on Twitter. So we have the little McGowan, Kitty McGowan, eating an ice cream now as he's being taken through to number 2's office, and then they go down because this is obviously a big network of underground labs and all kinds of incredible stuff, which we can only imagine. And then they go into the chamber and lock them in, sets the timer for the week. And then we have our first bit of Shakespeare by McGowan, where McGowan is essentially telling number 6 what they're doing. This is what I'm going to do. You know, I'm gonna find out about you. I'm gonna try and turn you, and then bang, I'm gonna die if I can't. So he's essentially just telling everything that's going to happen, and you see number 6 is watching the because the wonderful little butler has taken he stood in the nursery pen with a little rattle, and he's just shaking this rattle when he's got his little slick glasses on. And number 6 is just watching this rattle, watching, and then snags it. My toy now.
Well, you know, it's interesting because the Shakespeare quote really does define everything that happens they're really playing that out. I mean, looking at it, you know, all the men and women merely players, they have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. First the infant, and then the schoolboy, and then the lover, and then the soldier, and it's all set up, you know, in that. And I look, you can never go wrong with Shakespeare. Never. 500 years later, you know, and I just love it.
Yeah, don't worry, Shakespeare will get his cancellation soon enough.
Yeah, unbelievable. He's just an old white dude. Why do we have to listen to him anymore?
My God, why did he's racist? Writing Othello is racism.
He wasn't. How would he know about Othello's experience?
That black sheep is topping your white ewe. I'll never forget that from Othello. And jealousy is the green-eyed monster. Othello, Act 3, Scene 3. And when he snatches the rattle, number 2 says, even as a child, there's defiance in you. There's this element of defiance. So we have this, he's a school child next. He goes to school. And we have this incredible scene. This is probably going to be said a lot during this discussion But we have this incredible scene where number 6 has been brought into the headmaster's office. Somebody was talking in class, and number 2 wants him to say who it is. So he's like, was it you? No, sir. Who was it then? Won't say anything. You're a fool, number 6. Better a fool than a rat. Are you calling me a rat? No, sir, I'm a fool. Just keep turning it back on him, and it's just incredible stuff. But we see already there the mettle of number 6. We see there that this is a person of principles. Yes, somebody was talking in class, but he's not going to grass him up. He will take the punishment. And then when he says, right, we're going to give you 6 of the best, which means whacking with a cane.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they cut away from that. You don't see he walks in with the club, to do and they spare us. They spare us the actual torture. What happens, but they kind of spare us that torture.
Yeah. But he still refuses to say 6. So he's like 5, sir. He's like 10. He's like 12, sir. So I don't forget, sir. It's just, again, that defiance. Oh, you better give me more, sir. Not less. Better give me more, sir. It's just, yeah. So then the butler is the one who's going to give the whacking. Yeah, because he tries to use words like father, mother, brother. We get onto brother. There seems to be, so brother. When he goes through father, we don't get a reaction. We don't get a reaction with mother. So we don't have that sort of fraternal or maternal reliance. He's not one of those people. Then we go brother, and he does. He kind of repeats brother. We get brother. And to me, what that says is equal. Somebody that's on parity with you. Somebody's on par with you. So number 6, so number 2 realizes, right, we're dealing with somebody who wants and respects an equal, somebody who he deems an equal, and he's always playing superior until later in the episode, where when we get right towards the end of the episode, where he's had it flipped back on him, but
right.
Then he thinks he's the equal of number 6, but now number 6 is the superior. But he doesn't know, because he's too far gone himself now. So that was a bit of interest. I did that school scene. I thought was just so well done.
You're really well done. And also, again, the idea of this is a very English thing. The boarding school, the headmaster, another brick in the wall, which is another thing that I really like. Like we don't quite have that high school experience here in the United States. I mean, I guess if you went to a Catholic school, but again, it's such the fact that they chose these specific things. I really like the Britishness of it all. And maybe that's just me as a Yank coming at it, because it's not, I get it because I understand it through my own pop culture experience of the world, but it's different from my experience as a schoolboy in America going to a public school. It's just very different. Then there was no headmasters where I was going, and that's why I really
right. Yeah, I mean, I went to a grammar school, so a comprehensive. We have comprehensives, we had grammar schools, we had private schools. So the private school was obviously where the toffs and the money went. Grammar schools, I'm going to sound a little bit pompous here, are where you pass a certain grade on what was at the time called the 11 plus. So you 11 years old, you'd have to take this exam called the 11 plus, and based off the result, you were either put ahead for the grammar school, or you were put into the to the comprehensive. So that was kind of like a big time. I can still remember the day that I got the news that I'd been passed through to the grammar school.
Wow. See,
Well, this was it. This was a monumental time in your life because you'd been with all these kids through infant school and junior school, and so you had all these friends, good friends.
Yeah.
And now we were going to get split up. It was almost like being drafted. So I got to school and where did he go? Going to the grammar school, and then the sort of despair. You were happy that you got into grammar school. But at the same time, you were seeing really good friends and they're saying, "Oh, I didn't get in. I got to go to comprehensive."
Yeah, that's why
you don't realize, but these are friendships which are going to go because you're 11 years old. So it becomes actually a very melancholy time.
See, that's so different than our experience in the States, because you go to school from kindergarten. Well, now it's middle school, but for me, it was kindergarten through 6th grade. So you're with your friends, like you said, for 7 years.
Yeah.
And then you just move on to the middle school. It was a different school. And in the middle school, in my case, it was a junior high. You didn't lose people. You gained other schools. So suddenly Island Park Elementary School became we merged with Lake Ridge Elementary School, and suddenly, you're looking at, you still got your friends with you, but now everyone's like, well, who are these people? And are they going to be my friends too? And what do I have to do? And it was a very different experience. And
this is pretty apt. I got a photo album because I was showing some photos yesterday. This is my junior school.
Wow.
When I was at junior school, infant school.
Okay.
So this is the infant school, and then the picture below is when we were dressed up as like paupers for an event at junior school. So this is junior school. I am the guy at the end there. That's
with the
me.
hat on. The hat on.
Wow!
Look at little Az. Look at that in the vest. Very smart. The hat.
So we're all there doing our. This is all of our looking like 19th century kids going to school.
Wow.
This is what the kids would have looked like 100 years ago.
Sure.
At that school, and then here we are at early grammar. This is like final year. This is it. This is 11 years old. This is final year.
Yeah.
Final year in junior school.
Wow. You guys all look so mature.
Just
with the ties on.
We're all 11 years old here. There's Az there.
Wow.
There we go. So this is us at 11. Just about to ship off to grammar school. Wow. And then
so grammar school started when you were 12?
And there is me in my grammar school outfit.
You look like Richie Cunningham, little Opie from the Andy Griffith Show.
I know people like, fucking hell, he had hair. Yes, I did have hair.
Wow, look at you.
So that's me in my grammar school.
You look like you should have grown up and directed Solo, a Star Wars story.
Oh God, no! Oh, I would have probably do a better job. Let's just be honest. So that's life in. That's like and then we go off to the ball. This is 18 years old. 18 years old, about to head off to the dance.
Wow!
Dance.
Look at you, handsome devil.
All went wrong. All went wrong. But that's that's the process of growing up,
Right. Yeah.
Of course. And it was wonderful just to see that moment of character, because there was plenty of times at school where we got into trouble. No matter how pure you thought you were, or how good or cheeky or funny, there was an adult ready to slap you down with life.
Yeah.
I remember not having my homework ready for an English teacher, very strict English teacher. And I said, I'm really sorry, miss, but I have left my home. I will bring it in first thing tomorrow morning. I promise. And she said, okay, but I just want you to know, Trent, your smile and your charm, they're not going to get you everywhere in life. And I just felt that fucking small. Like I've been reduced.
Good teachers had a way of doing that.
I'm young. Well, yeah, I'm young. I'm cocky. I'm arrogant. I'm never going to get old like her. I am going to be eternal youth, and people are going to look at my smile, and they're going to look at my cheeky grin, and they're going to listen to my little jokes and my little sides, and they're going to go, "Isn't he wonderful?" That's going on in my head. And she's just like, "No,
I ain't gonna get
you everywhere. I ain't gonna get you everywhere." And you just suddenly go, "Yes, miss. Sorry, miss." So yeah, it's cool. But the reason for that is the school system that we had. So even at grammar school, we had headmaster. We had headmaster and we had houses. So there were various houses in the school with various names that were related to, names in the school itself. And so you got put into a house. You got put into A, B, or C in your year. You were 1A, 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 1B, 1C. Then second year, 2A, 2B, 2C, all the way up to fifth year. And then it was lower sixth, upper sixth. So it was a 7-year process through the grammar school. And then you would get, whether or not to go to university, go to college, again, another tier system. So as a grammar school, being that mid-tier, but you were still wearing uniforms, you were still had a headmaster, you still had a hell of a lot of structure. You had, it's something which is going now because it's all they're trying to get rid of grammar schools in the UK. They're trying to make them all comprehensives. It's an art that's lost because, the meritocracy is dying, Yeah,
I mean, it's strange to me that is the case. And I think that's been happening in education for a long time here in the United States as well. And I think that's a real education has to be about meritocracy. Mm-hmm. You have to have people because people are not equal. They're different. There are people that are shorter and taller and faster and smarter. And we should celebrate these differences that everybody has and encourage people to utilize them. And, it's a shame that people that shine, say, academically or intellectually, they should be challenged. They should be able to rise up. And what we're getting rid of in the United States are things like trade schools. There are people that are very adept with their hands. And we need those people as well. And in the United States, we're not encouraging people to develop their gifts. As a matter of fact, they don't have, if it isn't, we have to teach to the test. I mean, when I was in school, there was many opportunities. There was all kinds of after-school programs. There was music programs, arts programs, sports programs. There was a lot of different programs. There was auto shop and things like that. All of that was done away with. And this idea that everybody's going to be special and grow up to be a multimillionaire or the next Bill Gates is false. And the fact that we aren't providing education that allows people to explore for its own sake, exploring things and finding out, you might discover you're good at something that you didn't know you were good at, and if you don't have those opportunities, how are you ever going to have that ability to find out? And we're taking that away because everyone's like, well, what's the profit in that? Everything is for profit. Well, education shouldn't be for profit. It should be for its own sake. Learning for its own sake, discovering the world, discovering your innate talents, your innate interests. The fact that we are losing this, it's a terrible thing for our society, for the West, I think.
Well, I don't think anything says it more than that comment there. So he was in a fine school and now he drinks rum from a mug. I think that sums up everything about that. It is, but we've had an episode of The Prison which has discussed the education system with a general. And I understand the fact that I think education needs to change. from just, there's got to be something more than just academia. You have to appreciate that not everyone is wired that same way. And like looking back now as an adult with life experience, when as a kid, you didn't want to get into the comprehensive school. You thought that that was beneath you. You thought they were beneath you. But that's the arrogance of youth. That's the arrogance of youth. And that's what happens when you get tests to go into schools. Because there's a prize, and the prize is you go to the better school. So looking back now, it's like a horrible thing to think. And I feel very ashamed. I used to think that way. But that's what the system was at the time. That was just the product of its time.
Sure.
When you go through an examination process. So yeah, I understand, but I think there's got to be different schools that don't focus on academia and they pick these things up younger, much, much younger. You want to go into a trade, you have to wait till like 16 years old in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange thing. I had never really worked with my hands or done any woodworking, and I took a shop class. It was called shop, like wood shop. I took a shop class in 7th grade, and I built my mom a pretty sophisticated plant thing to put plants on. It's like a 4 legs and all that, beveled edges. I worked really hard on it, and she has it to this day. Not just because I made it; it actually looks like a nice piece of furniture. And that was
a mahogany poker table.
Oh, is it still around?
I think you're giving away. When I was at uni, I think she gave it away to somebody. But I made a nice mahogany poker table. So we called it CDT, Craft Design Technology. CDT is what and then we did have home economics, which was cooking.
Yeah, we had that too.
But that didn't come into these. Some of these didn't come into play until you were old and like hit 4th, 5th grade. That's when those kicked in. So for the first 3 years, no. And then you would go through not the GCSEs, but you kind of go through a choice process when you hit year 4, and you'd be able to streamline your curriculum yourself, be able to pick. You'd be able to drop some, and you'd be able to pick some.
Right.
And boy, that was the time that you were waiting for. Yeah. Latin, fuck off. Because everything was compulsory for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, we're talking about skill.
I know.
But that's the beauty of this episode. That's the beauty of this scene, because this is what we're talking about right at the beginning. It dragged you in, and it made you think, and it's made me contemplate these thoughts about going back to school, going into the tier system, and we're discussing it with you. So this is actually this isn't us going off on a tangent. This is a product of what this episode is doing, because it is taking you through life. You speak Latin as yes, amo, masama, amawas, amantis, amant, monio, mones, monesis, monesis, monent, amabo, ambers, amabat, amabantis, amabamus, amabantis, amabant. Money. I could go on. There you go, a little bit of Latin for you.
Taking you through Shakespeare's All the World's a Stage, and all of us are merely players.
Players, yes.
The levels that he had already so eloquently laid out, the parts in a person's life.
There is a school play picture here. That's the school play picture, and that is Guys and Dolls.
Wow.
And that is me there. And I'm playing Lieutenant Brannigan. In Guys and so that was the school play. That was me at 17. The school play was an out of school voluntary process. So you would be told that the school play this year is going to be X on the notice board in the main hallway. Sign up if you want to be in it. Then there was the rehearsal process, all done after school. This is all now in your free time. Then it was done after school. Then every rehearsal is either lunchtime or in your free time. So that wasn't even part of the school curriculum. You wanted to know about literature. You wanted to know about Shakespeare and all that. That was done in English literature. So, yeah. Sorry. So yes, this episode, like I said, that's why I said you got to be like 40 years old to really appreciate this, because this is a journey through life. This is a journey about reliving these events. Now, this is a deconstruction of a person, sure, but almost we're kind of deconstructing ourselves, because we're looking back to see what made us, where we've been, how we've got to where we are, what life decisions we made that brought us to these specific moments in time. Oof. It's heady stuff, this one.
Well, it's interesting that is what degree absolute is. That this thing that they're doing, and the fact that McGowan wrote this, what does it say about him, that this is how he chooses to have this final showdown, well, quote unquote final, but the showdown between number 2 and number 6 in this way, and that it's a very deliberate choice. We're learning stuff about 6 throughout his entire life and who he was as an individual, even as a child and through school, and then taking him up into the military and his service as well, whether it's John Drake. But it's really interesting that where McGowan is taking his own creation of number 6. Fascinating stuff.
And then we went from the school to the interview process, trying to get that first job in the bank. I'm good with maths, sir.
Yeah.
We all are. That's why we work here.
Yeah. It's so great.
That's just, again, that's a life experience answer back to some.
It's so great.
Yeah.
I'm wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm the best employee you're ever gonna have.
Yeah, but yeah, this is that's the saying, the arrogance of youth.
Yeah.
And there's a very good reason why they call it the arrogance of youth. Fuddy duddies, you don't know what it's like, darling. We've lived it and been there, and not just got the t-shirt, we got the whole fucking wardrobe, And then one day you'll be in exactly the same shoes as us, and you'll be like, oh. But yes, you're going for the interview process and gets the job. And then, of course, it's revealed that the job is more than the job.
It's more than you thought.
It's not just a bank. There's a little bit of shenanigans going on here. This is actually, something else. And are you cut? Are you cut out for this?
Can you sell subprime mortgages to people that can't afford to pay them? With a clear conscience.
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yeah. Great. You're going to go far in this place. Do you know what pyramid scheme is? So this bank was clearly a front for the secret agency.
The company.
Yes, that 6 ends up working for. And he kind of feels that he has this drive to help and to he's got but you realize that he has a bit of a thing for secrecy. If it's something covert, if it's something a wee bit secret, he's up for it.
I'm not gonna rat.
Yeah,
I've got a secret and I'm not gonna rat.
Yeah, because I might be a fool, but I'm not a rat.
I'm not a rat.
That keeps coming back. Yeah.
And as an ethos, if number 6 has an ethos, that's what it is. He's not just going to protect his secret; he'll protect yours too.
Yes.
And I think that as a character trait is admirable.
Mm. So we get that wonderful bit where he's been driving too quickly. He gets arrested. We're going to put you in prison for 6 days. Still won't. He refuses to say the word 6. Every time that it's put to him, he just ignores it. He'll go from 5 to 7.
So great. It's just so great.
He will not normalize 6. He will not make it part of his vocabulary, because if he normalizes it at that age, then when he grows up, it will be normal to him, and therefore he will be accepting number 6 in the village, and he's refusing to do that. So he gets incarcerated in the nice little wagon with the kitchen and the.
It's basically his apartment. He's been placed back in his apartment in the village, which is a recreation of his apartment in London, but it's still. Aren't those cages that we all live in?
Yes. Oh, yes.
All of our domiciles. I mean, unless you own
little
some
boxes on the hillside.
Yeah,
little boxes made of ticky tacky. More literature, folks. So then he just keeps. Why did he resign? Won't say. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, he has to get to a certain age level before number 2 will actually address the question directly. And to me, what I love about this episode is when he goes back to the question, "Why did you resign?" You start to see the shift in power of number 2. I mean, number 6 has been his refusal to say the number 6 is one thing, but when you're bringing it's Leo McKern's frustrated. What this degree absolute is, it's not giving me what I want as fast as I want. So tell me, why'd you resign? Just tell me. And it's great because it's the beginning of the tables are turning, and number 6 again.
He's played the authoritarian role. He's played the headmaster. He's played the judge. He's played the person who sentenced him. So you've had this authoritarian role. He's tried to demean. He's tried to reduce number 6. And, now he's almost demanding.
Yes.
Why did you resign? Why did you resign? He's demanding that this question be answered. Why? I'm a fool, but I'm not a rat. Won't say. And then he keeps him in prison. Then we get to the war, because he's like, you killed before, because he says he's killed before.
Yes, he has.
And he killed in the war. Now, this is interesting, because this was filmed in 66, 67, 68. Which would have meant it's like 23 years removed from the end of the Second World War. Number 6, we don't know his age in the show, but in reality, McGowan's about 38, 39 years of age at the recording of this. So you take about 23 years off that, and you got a 16-year-old. So was he a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old during the war?
I mean, was he conscripted? Did he actually fight, or did he,
Well, it's in his file. He fought and he killed. He fought and he killed. That's because he said you've killed before. But he has this, like when we had the fencing segment, when number 2 is trying to goad number 6 into killing him, and number 6 refuses to do it then. And so he brings it back up now. You've killed before. And then you have this reluctance from 6 to do it again. This in actual fact.
Well, it's interesting.
Episode, he's disgusted by
I like that he does draw blood from number 2. He doesn't kill him. Yeah. He doesn't kill him, but he is willing to, even though they're fencing, as soon as the tip guard comes off, he's not above making sure number 2 feels it.
But we get this incredible. I mean, I thought this was so powerful because McKern tries to turn the tables on him. It's like, you want to kill me? He's just like, no, I'll kill you. Because he says, I'll kill you. McKern has said it a couple of times during the episode, I'll kill you. And he's like, go on then. So McKern tries to be that authoritarian, grabs the knife, and then puts number 2, unlocks the thing with number 6, and is like threatening to stab him. And then 6 does, I think he just does the best thing. Just lies down. Come on. Lies down. He's got handcuffs. He's lying down. He's as passive can be. Go on, kill me.
Kill me.
Kill me lying down. He's almost saying you're a coward. Kill me like the coward you are. Show me what a coward you are by killing me lying down, handcuffed. Couldn't pose any less of a threat to you if I tried. Kill me, you coward. Because McKern, he turns it all back on McKern for calling him a coward for not killing him. Trying to goad him into killing. Turns it all around on him. Shows him this is how a coward kills. This is how somebody that has the power over somebody else and abuses that power. That's cowardice right there. And I just thought that part was just mind blowing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is a commentary as well on World War II and so much of what had happened in European and American history, but mostly European history over the 20th century. How many people were killed in that very fashion? How much death had been caused in that very way. And again, it's number 6 playing these brinksmanship games.
Oh,
and it's I love it. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great act of defiance, even though he's on his back and cuffed. Number 6 is still like, I dare you.
Kill me lying down. Kill me lying down. It's just like,
oh, it's great.
It's so good.
And what's also the way that's written and played, you're watching number 6's real personality emerge out of his brainwashed stupor.
Yes.
As he's being, so you realize that he really is who he says he is, where everyone else is playing games and pretending and all that. Number 6 has never pretended, and the only games he plays are the ones that are forced on him. And he plays to win. So but he shows his, I mean, this is where he's showing his compassion, because that's when McKern challenges that he's killed before. You killed in the war, right? So they jump to the war scene, but then we realize that he was a bomber in the RAF, Royal Air Force. By the way, I love the bomber sequence.
Well, it's very clever because he's just like, countdown, 10, 9, 8, 8, 7, 7, 6.
No, it's great.
5, 5, 4, 4. But he refuses to drop the bombs on the target. He doesn't kill. So are the records wrong? Is it assumed because he was in the war and he was in a bomber that he killed? Or was it the fact that number 2 was trying to force him to kill in a different manner?
I think it's that way. I think what they're showing is, look, when you're flying in a plane, it's a different thing. Whether you're on a bombing run, flying across the channel to bomb Germany or bomb France or something, it's a different thing than to kill a man on an individual basis who's lying on a floor.
Well, it's the difference between looking your enemy in the eye and being removed.
Absolutely. And I also think that
technology does now. Technology removes
100%
almost the guilt of death at times.
But you never know. I think that, look, when you're flying a plane, anybody, especially in World War II, when the air war became such an important aspect of war. We never really in World War I to a certain degree, but not really.
No, Battle of Britain was the big one.
Yeah. The air war in World War II and what air power did changed warfare forever. And there's something obviously far less personal being in a bomber that you know you've killed. Yes, I was in a bomber and I dropped bombs, and yes, they were responsible for death, but I wasn't driving a stake into a man's heart.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that. I was doing my duty for my country.
Yeah, it was posing to me. It was posing a very interesting way. It was trying to trick him, and trick his morality. Because if you can bomb somebody from a mile away, then you can stab somebody in the face. It was just that we'll try and coerce him into doing it, just in a different way. Maybe it's the personal way that's revolting him. Maybe if we back it off, make it less personal. Didn't the pilot of the Enola Gay commit suicide?
I seem to remember something like that, that, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up again.
I mean, imagine. Can you imagine? No. I can't even imagine, especially with the legacy of what the Enola Gay meant to the modern age and what it ushered in, having done something like that. Because I don't think they really knew, even though they tested it. It's one thing to know these things on paper, or to know them in the desert or in the Bikini Islands or something, but to actually see the aftermath of what happened in a city with hundreds of thousands of people, that's a very different thing indeed.
Yeah. But again, this is a pilot, and it just shows that you're still not removed from it.
No. And I think that, even like with one thing, you go on bombing runs and it's a technical exercise. You're concentrating on hitting a target. You're concentrating on delivering a package. But, in the aftermath of these things, when you see them, it's different indeed. And I wonder, I wonder what was going through the minds of the men on the Enola Gay as they went to, as Robert Shaw would say, the bomb. The Hiroshima bomb. You say, can you imagine this? And this is one of these instances where it's just like, I can't even imagine it. Because it had never happened, but there was nothing analogous in human history. Maybe if you were in Pompeii,
but there's nothing that you could possibly feel that would compare to that feeling if you were in that situation. There is nothing that you could feel in current day. But with Pompeii, it's a different time. You had God, their religious aspect, their theological aspect, just fucking volcano, get the fuck out.
Right. Let's go.
Run, bitch, run. So yeah, it was interesting that he tried to make him do it, but then he purposely didn't drop, and then he missed his target. And then they got hit and they had to bail out. And then they were captured behind the enemy lines. And he tries to break him through. I imagine there would be suggestive torture there. But he just wouldn't break. Just wouldn't break. And the tide is really turning now. Because he's lost. McKern's lost all his power. He's been the strict headmaster. He's been the boss. He's been the judge. He's been the superior officer in the army. He's now been the enemy officer interrogating. And he refuses to bend in every occasion.
Well, what's interesting in that is that number 6 is going through his own life, and Leo McKern is taking on these other roles of other people, whereas number 6 is showing that he's been, whatever is in him has been in him from the beginning.
Yes.
It's been in him from when it was innate. Maybe it was innate in him, but he hasn't changed, and he knows who he is. And yet Leo McKern has been changing identities, and being a number 2 is to accept another identity. It's not, you're not being true to yourself. You're being another one of these.
Yeah.
And as McGowan has been going through Degree Absolute and becoming closer and closer to where he is before he was reverted, he's just becoming more and more and more the number 6 we know and love, gaining his superpower, so to speak. And as McKern is trying everything in his book of tricks and nothing is working, the frustration mounts and the desire to let, he doesn't even want to go through Degree Absolute anymore. It's just tell me, I'm done with this, and that's, there's a great Clive Barker story called The Yattering and Jack, and it harks back to C.S. Lewis's The Screw Tape Letters, and also one of my favorite books of the Bible is the Book of Job. And I love stories about people, like in The Yattering and Jack, there's this demon who's trying to destroy this man's life. And he's like living in his house and he's doing all these things to him. And the man is refusing to bend no matter what happens. Like Job, his faith in God is unshakable and unswerving. And as God takes away everything Job has, Job refuses to denounce God, refuses to lose his faith. And when the Yattering is trying to destroy Jack's life,
by the way, God was a dick in the Old Testament.
He was a dick in the Old Testament. He was a total dick. But like with the Yattering and Jack and Job or whatever, at the end, Jack defeats the Yattering. The demon runs off and screaming, his mind is broken. And Jack's like, I knew you were there all the time. I knew what I had to do. I knew what I had to do. And, Job went through hell. But finally, his unwavering, unshakable faith, he finally is rewarded. And in a way, number 6 has always kind of reminded me of Job in the sense that he's in the village and they just keep pushing him and taking away from him. And what saves him in the end is he truly is true to himself. He truly is the ultimate individual, uncompromising and unwilling to waver in his belief. And everyone, like you pointed out, that number 2 at one point fell. Like all of the number 2s, but more so now, I never really thought about, they're all fallen. The reason they became number 2 is because they were good little functionaries. And at the end, they were rewarded. They were rewarded for the compromise they made of their own souls. You compromised your soul. It might have taken a while, but we broke you. Now you're number 2, and now you can run everything. But we always don't forget, at one point, we did, in fact, break you. That's what gave you this status. And in a way, that's kind of our society now. You compromise and compromise and compromise, and suddenly you're head of a bank or you're the head of a political dynasty, and that's what it's all about. We need to get something on you. We need to have something on you. So no matter how far you ascend, at one point, we can always take back what it is that we gave you. And you know that, and we know that. And every decision that you do, and when we call upon you to do something that we tell you to do, every decision is based on, at one point, you compromised. And number 6 never does.
Because we know that the village knows what's in his resignation letter.
Right.
We know that because when we have the introduction in Arrival, he's like, what's the matter with what's this all this resignation business? This wonderful, just try and take you off guard, casual flippancy of breaking somebody. And he's like, but I mean, purely, I agree. I personally believe you that it was a matter of principle. So in that resignation letter, there's something about I'm resigning on the, the basis of principles of.
Well, in this episode, one of my favorite things is, why did you start answering these questions? I did so for peace. Yeah. For peace, and then you think, oh, peace in wartime.
PEA,
and then he's like, of mind. He follows up with the So you're thinking, wow, peace. And even the way they played, it's like, oh, it's peaceful. Yes, he wanted to save the world. No, peace of mind.
Yeah.
And I love that, how there was that pause and you think, oh, you're even as a viewer, I'm contemplating. I'm like, huh.
Is he going to give it? He's giving it. Is he giving it?
And then he follows up of mind. It's just so great. It's so great.
Then he's just like, too many people know too many secrets.
Too many things. That's right.
But he's like he's blaring this out. He's because he's fighting back. Every fiber of his being is fighting the programming, fighting back, and then he kind of switches, and suddenly McKern is lying down, and Six has suddenly become the ear to listen to number 2 vent. And then they discuss about, this is a known practice of trying to break somebody with, breaking them down and familiarity and going through their, breaking down their life. But of course, the problem is it could have the same effect on the interrogator, which could result in a catastrophic reverse of this. And it's just like, because it's happening right there in front of you. It's going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
So number 2 thinks he's suddenly got somewhere with number 6. But the simple fact of the matter is the roles are now completely reversed. And number 6 has all of the power. And number 2 doesn't realize he has none. Absolutely none anymore. And so he's there, chum, let's get a drink, old chum, number 6 starts asking so what's this thing here? Is it detachable? Can it move? Which is all comes back in Fallout, by the way. This is a detachable device module that can go in a different. We got this kitchen here. We got the 6 month stock worth of food over here. And he's having a drink thinking, right, we're chums now. We're on parity now.
It's 100 proof.
Yeah, this is the real thing.
Proof.
Yeah. I've had, I think it was 96% proof vodka, 98% proof vodka. And this is proper stuff. This is the cloudy shit.
Yeah.
This is the real thing.
Well, I love when he says it's 100 proof. Number 6 just takes it and drinks.
Yeah. I nearly destroyed my eyesight with that. But yeah, they're just supping drinks, and he's showing him everything. Oh, look at this, solid. We're locked in together, you and I, behind all the solid steel. And then he pulls the clock back, and I go, 5 minutes. He realizes he's got 5 minutes until time's up. And we have the great bit where he locks him in the cage, and then he's like, Tech gives the key to the butler, and he's like, he thinks you're the boss now. And number 6 says, that's because I am. Because number 2 doesn't realize he's lost all of his power.
Everything.
Everything. And then he's like, I'll kill you. He's like, how about I come in there and kill you? Get away from me. Get away from me. So then he brings the butler back to get the key and unlocks and then opens the door again, which I thought was great because it kind of played on number 2's bluff. And then, he's quite happy to let him out and roam and drink. And he's counting down the time left. And then you have that's the brilliant bit. He just got McKern begging. And he's like, look at you begging on your knees, crawling. He's like, oh, you want me to crawl? I'll crawl. And he's like crawling. And it's like, wow, this is a man now who's been just reduced. Who's it's happened to him what he tried to do to 6. He's now a reduced person who is begging for a crumb. He needs this information. I need to know why. But 6 isn't going to give it to him. He's dead. And it hits that naught timer and bang, as 2 said at the beginning, just collapses dead. And then our supervisor comes in.
Oh, it's great. The door opens. They reveal, number 2 reveals that door too. He comes over and opens up. Here's the door. And it's when the supervisor comes in, it's so great because Number 6 is one.
Yeah. It's just like, leave the body. We'll need that for evidence. And number 6 just throws his drink down. He's disgusted at the, again, but this is, he's disgusted at this complete and utter disregard for life. And it's played such an important role throughout this whole breaking, or attempt to break him, which has just been phenomenal.
And he also knows, I think, that the way, I mean, again, this isn't necessarily in the episode, but I think it's a theme that, like you said, number 6, even though number 2 was on opposite ends, the fact that he did die, and that there is this, again, a loss of life, a waste. The fact that this entire system, that number 2, he and Leo McKern could have been friends, maybe.
Yes.
It's, again, I go back to Star Trek, the end of Balance of Terror, when the Romulan commander's on the screen and he knows he's lost. And he looks at Kirk through the view screen and he says, in another reality, I could have called you friend.
Yeah.
And then the ship explodes. And that's kind of where they are. And number 6 and Kirk, same way. Kirk, and again, these shows are running contemporaneously with one another. Balance of Terror is a first season episode. This episode aired, I looked it up, aired in 1968 for the first time. So a year later, but still, this idea that in these shows there was a morality, and there was, even in our great science fiction and fantasy shows, the loss of life, even a villain's life, an antagonist's life, was hard felt. It was not. Nowadays, if I can bring it back to Star Trek, it is amazing how many.
It always goes back to Star Trek.
How many people get killed in each episode of Discovery? Laser fire. They've killed so many people, and because the writers of the show bring it back down, and when human beings are, whenever they're considered cannon fodder or expendable. I mean, this is kind of crazy, but in X-Men 3, Brett Ratner's X-Men 3. One of the reasons I hated that movie, and I love the first 2 X-Men movies, is because at one point, Magneto says, when all these mutants are being reduced, their powers are being taken away, and they're thrown into the fray, and Magneto's hanging back, and Magneto says, we're all pawns, my dear. He just calls them pawns, and he's throwing his own troops. And the Magneto, the character, would never have done that. And this idea
right now, though.
Yeah, I know, but that's one of the reasons I hated that film. But the idea is,
Brett, what do you want me to do right now?
Where do you think the camera should go?
Yeah, how do you think? What do you think? Whatever you say, I'll do.
Yeah. Here, I'm not finished texting. What's the next shot? What are we doing? But
just sort it out. Sure.
That loss of life. That's why when number 6 does throw his drink down and is disgusted, again, he's compassionate even against his adversary,
and without too many spoilers for next week. Spoilers, and I'm talking more discussion spoilers than actual. We get to explore a bit of what would happen if McKern's number 2 and number 6's number 6 are on the same side, because we have this rebirth of Leo McKern in the next episode, this rebirth of this bringing back to life and because it's a year later, McKern's physically different in as much as his hairstyle and his beard, etc. But that's essentially the rebirth of him. Not just him coming back to life, but it's the sort of the rebirth of his character. He's got his integrity back. He's got his character back. Which, like I said, we don't want to give too much away for next week. But we get to explore that. And that's
and another someone. It's like Gandalf the Grey becomes Gandalf the White.
Yeah.
Or if you are a Sandman comic fan, Morpheus becomes Daniel in at the end. And it is the same person yet a very different person. And I love stories like that. Yeah, I do love those rebirth stories, and people go through some kind of a crucible, and they're in a way. This is kind of obscure, but in the movie, Roland Joffe's movie, The Mission, Robert De Niro is like this horrible slave trader that becomes a a man of God, in the course of the movie. And I love those kinds of, whether it's spiritual awakenings or somebody becomes a pacifist after being drenched in blood most of their lives. I love those kinds of transformation stories.
Yeah. And then the supervisor says, you've won. What do you want? Number one, I'll take you to him. And then that's, we see him go open the doors, and they go through the doors, and to be continued in Fallout.
Now, it's interesting that the production order, like McGowan writing and directing this, I know that there's like an ending, that there's an ending here with a script that in the script that I don't know what the ending, there was apparently an additional ending or something. I don't know what that is, but because Fallout was shot way after this episode, obviously.
Yeah, about a year or so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a long time. That's a lot. You can be a lot contemplative. And I just wonder, is the episode we're going to watch next week, was that what was in his mind when he wrote this? Was that where he was going to take us? Or was it going to be?
I think if he'd written Fallout straight after writing this, I think it would have been incredible.
Yeah, I do too. And I think it's one of the great, Fallout is one of the great baffling and, let's face it, unsatisfying episodes of television ever made. And yet
confusing, baffling,
baffling, maddening. And especially in this day and age, it is a wholly very unsatisfying ending. And yet, that said, I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to go straight into Fallout after watching Once Upon a Time. I just wanted to go straight into Fallout. I wanted to see if I could make some sense of something. I think I'm going to be going uphill on that one, but yeah, I mean there are elements next week. There are elements of Fallout which I really do like.
Yes.
Particularly when they sort of get out the village, that whole passage is great. Where we get a complete tonal change in music. We get to kind of see where the characters are. We get to see where Liam McKern comes from. We get little bits of resolution, and I think the ending is ambiguous enough to have a good discussion about what we think happens next.
By the way, there's something really obscure about this episode that I forgot to mention that I want to mention. In the opening, when you actually see the episode titles, they change the font a bit, and we get to see the I in time dotted. I's didn't have dots until this episode. It was the first time they put a dot on top of the I in the word time. And I mean, the obvious thing being that it's Rover, Yeah. And to me, or it looks more like a number one. There's a lot of things. But what I like about the show is it's a small, subtle thing, but it was very intentional. It was done specifically.
Never recognized that myself.
Yeah, and well, I read it actually. I'd never recognized it either, and I went back and looked, and I was like, oh. But they did so the thought that was put into this episode was enormous. And I'm sure that had to have been something Patrick McGowan said. And in finding that out, I liked it, because obviously Rover takes a different. It's very interesting because we don't see Rover roving. He's just
Rover's sitting.
He's sitting, and whenever we see Rover exploding from underwater, maybe that chair, because these chairs are, everything in number two's office can be moved around. maybe that's just Rover's resting place before they launch him, and they just put him there.
To me, I thought it's very interesting that Rover is above number two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Rover isn't there to just do your bidding. Rover's there to make sure everybody.
That's right.
Everybody is in check. So essentially, Rover is number one's dog.
And Rover's got number two on notice. You're not long for this world, buddy.
Well, do your job.
Get yourself done.
Do your job. Yeah.
Sort it out.
Right, let's go through some super chats. Let's open this up. See if we've got some questions. See if people have got some theories. See if people have got some stuff. So we start off with Meyer Hake with a $5 super chat. Are you aware of the Dances with Wolves 2020 Steelbook? Is it worthy of a purchase? Growing my physical media collection, and I like this movie. This is a good one for you.
Well, what should I say about that? What can I say? I don't know. Can I come back to that?
Sure. We'll let Robert think about that, and he'll get back to you, Meyer. Grandpappy Fisk with a $5 super chat. This is one of the greatest episodes of television ever made. Number 2's identity unravels as he approaches an ego death, while number 6's identity is reborn. Yeah, there's a complete affirmation of his his personality in this. He's I've been using the word resolute, but yeah, it's kind of like he goes through the whole process, and boy, is he reborn. He's reborn stronger than ever after this episode.
I think so too.
Grandpa Fisk again with a $2 super chat. No special effects needed, just 3 guys in a room. Yeah, just little Butler doing his thing. But it's really kind of like a 2-man band, this. Just McKern and McGowan just displaying some incredible acting job. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Liam McKern anyway as an actor. I think he was just an incredible actor. But those two together, the chemistry that they have, my God, it's something to behold. You see, McGowan has such incredible presence, and he can easily overshadow people with his presence. McKern is not overshadowed by McGowan. These are 2 heavyweight actors here.
Well, also, I mean, even though number 6 has good lines, McGowan wrote number 2 to have all this juicy stuff. He's being a generous writer and a generous director here. And as the impresario of this show, he didn't have to do that. He could have made it some showcase for number 6. And I love the fact that he gives McKern a chance to just shine, whether he's shouting a nursery rhyme or sweating bullets at the end of the episode as he's losing it,
begging or what,
I mean, it speaks a lot to McGowan's character that he allowed that to happen, because the actors can be a little egomaniacal, but not in the case of this episode. McGowan, as the writer director, allows McKern to shine.
Who's the I keep forgetting his goddamn name. Mark Ruffalo tweeted out a picture of his cat today. It's like, here's a monthly picture of my kitties, and people are like, oh, that's great. And I'm sorry, Robert, I had to bite on this tweet. I said, all right, so you've stopped calling half of the country a bunch of whatever names under the sun for you to do this. I was like, shut up, you fucking hypocrite.
No, look, again, I do not begrudge anyone their opinions like that. I don't think you're necessarily wrong by saying something like that. I think we all have to take stock.
I think it's wrong calling half the country Nazis and white supremacists.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean in terms of calling somebody out when they make okay. Like a cat tweet. I think.
Sorry, you were defending me, not Ruffalo. Okay, sorry.
No, I was defending you in terms of that.
And defending Ruffalo. I was like, okay.
No. I was defending you because I think people have to remember. It's so easy that. Oh, like whatever, your side wins and then the next week life goes on. I mean, no, it's the way you conduct yourself during wartime that is a true test of character. I'm not saying that maybe the election process wasn't wartime, but you know what? There things will come back, and you can't act one way at a certain time and then not think it's not going to come back and reflect on you.
Well, yeah, so, that's the kind of point. Joseph Nash with a $5 super chat. Just take this tip for being a sexy, majestic beast. In one lifetime, maybe, or one dimension, not this one. Gary Walker with a £1 fiddy phallic unicorn. Thank you, Gary. And then he follows up with a £5 super chat. Here's a little something to put towards another bottle of Mount Gay. Enjoy, sir. Oh, I do like my Mount Gay rum. Theta Sigma with a $25 super chat. I've been looking forward to this 6 of 1 since it started. This would probably be my favorite, spelt both ways, American and British.
Thank you.
Episode. The acting in this alone between McGowan and McKern is priceless.
Oh.
And Leo had a breakdown during this episode. Yeah, we've been through all of that. Yeah.
Their accounts even had a heart attack, but that he had a heart attack. He actually had a heart attack. But I've read different disputes of whether.
Yeah. I've listened to an interview with McKern that was done in, I think, the early 2000s, where he's discussing the filming of that, and he was just, it's just like, it was just, he knew that Magoon wanted everything from him because Magoon was gonna give everything himself, and he said he was just driving me, and I was going mad. I was going back to my trailer and just crying. And
well, I mean, imagine when you're watching the episode when he's worked himself up and he's doing all those things, and someone's like, "All right, cut back to one," and then he has to go back and bring that up again. I mean, you're making TV, you're working at a rapid pace, you're setup after setup after setup, and yet you as an actor are supposed to dig deep and get up to those levels every time they say action. And man, that is not easy for an actor to do when you're working with these kinds of emotions. I mean, it's not like they're playing quiet scenes here.
Yeah.
And that's, can you imagine, say they shot this over 8 days? I mean, that is rough.
Very, there's, I can see it happening. And then especially when Magoon is already went into his breakdown.
Yeah, and McGowan wrote and directed this episode and is acting. I mean, can you imagine McKern's also probably feeling the pressure of not only my fellow actor is it intense, but he's also written and he's directing the episode. So it's I can't even imagine the pressure on Leo McKern to perform. It's like, dance, monkey, dance.
Yeah,
and he put it on himself. It's no wonder he had a breakdown. I mean, he wanted to do right he was brought back to the show too. So it was a real vote of confidence. And oh my man, I can't even imagine what he was going through making this episode. Can't even imagine.
Boy, is it a doozy.
And we're watching it 53 or 52 years later.
All the hideous things that those boys went through. To watch it, to watch it back, it's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Man of War 665, neighbor of the beast, with a $10 super chat. Blood for the blood god, and my thanks to both of you for this stream series. Not quite over yet.
No, it's not over yet.
We got to get a big audience. I'm gonna really big up next week. We want a big audience for the final episode of for this on Robert's channel next week. Sci-Fi Freak with a $5 super chat. You guys should try to get Doomcock on for a post show. He claims to know what the last episode is about, but he wouldn't say anything. I love Doomcock. McGowan doesn't fucking know what the last episode's about. Nobody knows what the last. We can have our interpretations. Maybe he's got a great interpretation, which is cool. Like to listen to it, definitely. But nobody knows. When McGowan turns around and says, I don't know what the fuck it was about, nobody knows what it's about, okay? To profess to know is madness itself. Martino Solmolny with 66 Chilean frakes. Thank you, sir. Or madam. Martino? I'm not too sure. I'm not very good on my Latin. All I know is don't say Latinx. They fucking hate that. Thanks for your discussions about Star Trek disguised as The Prisoner retrospective. Sticky out tongue, winky face, love you both. That's great. Yeah. It's always no doubt there'll be some stuff. We'll have our obligatory. Let's just briefly talk about last episode of Discovery at the end of this episode. I'm pretty sure. Grandpappy Frisk is back again with a $2 super chat. McGowan worked as a bank clerk and a driver in real life. Yes, because as I said at the beginning of the episode, when his daughter Catherine watched this, she was like, "Oh my God, this is my dad. This is my dad's life."
Yeah.
McGowan was now number 6. He had written himself as number 6. So yes, you were literally going through what McGowan had gone through. Bearing in mind, of course, that the birthday of the prisoner of number 6 is McGowan's birthday as well. So this is a very personal project. And my God, thank you for it, because he created one of the greatest shows in television history because of it. Arguably the best, some would say. Mr. Will Guitar with a £5 super chat. Sorry to crash the stream. Would love to know what you guys think of Blake's 7, the old series, especially with Rob being a Star Trek fan. Were you rewatching it recently?
I'm a big fan of Blake 7. As a matter of fact, when they released, I have all 4 seasons on DVD that I bought when they were coming out in England. I really like Blake 7 a lot. And it was interesting because when I was younger, I kept seeing, and I don't know why, but it aired on PBS, and I kept seeing the same, I forget the name of the episode now too. I kept seeing the same episode, and it's the episode with Servalon and Avon, and the Liberator gets destroyed. And I keep saying that to people. I'm like, and then I didn't see Blake 7 for the longest time. That was the only episode I'd seen for like 20 years. And when they released the series on DVD, I was like, heck yeah, I can finally see Blake 7. And I loved it. I mean, yeah, it like many BBC shows of the era, it was shot on videotape. Yeah. And then when they would go outside, they would shoot in 16 millimeter and transfer. So it has and they're trying to make use of real locations as much as they could, but I really like Blake 7. I think the storyline's terrific, and it's about rebellion, and it's about destroying the system, and it's about a lot of different things, but and I like Avon and Servalon. They're great. And I love the Liberator.
Long live the Liberator. He's dead. Mr. Tickle Trunk with 2 Canadian super sticker of a lovely fox with little love hearts. And Mr. Tickle Trunk then follows up with a 5 Canadian super chat. It was great to see Peter Jackson in The Prisoner. Liam McKern doing a great impression of Peter Jackson. Or is Peter Jackson doing a homage? Both Australian, aren't they? Isn't Peter Jackson Australian?
No, he's New Zealand. He's a New Zealander.
He's a Kiwi. Okay,
he's a Kiwi. Through and through.
Okay. More McKern was both Antipodean. Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's the style.
I wonder if Peter Jackson has ever dressed up as number. I'm willing to bet Peter Jackson at some point in his life dressed up as number 2 for Halloween
and got laid.
Probably. That's probably how I met Fran Walsh. I'm gonna be number 2.
Dressed as number 6. And the Mr. Tickle Trunk again follows up with a 5 Canadian super chat. You snivel and grovel and crawl to ask. Why? Ask yourself. The writing and acting in this episode was fantastic all around.
Yep.
Yeah, that end bit was just
good stuff.
You want me to crawl? It's just like, just you're broken, mate. You're broken. You're done. Rob Altis with a $5 super chat. I now see where JJ got some ideas for Lost, but he failed to deliver the impactful ending of The Prisoner. I'm pretty sure that JJ just takes just takes already known ideas and doesn't, because they're not his own and it's not crafted, he doesn't know how to end stuff. He's never ended anything well. Shane O'Reilly with a €5 super chat. Amazing episode. I could imagine this being performed by 2 actors on a big circular stage, surrounded by an audience that's in complete darkness. God, that would be fucking awesome. If it was McGowan and McKern in some sort of amphitheater, circular amphitheater. There on stage, like Stewart and McKellen doing their thing. And then, and then Shane O'Reilly follows up with a €1 fiddy phallic. How dog. Gotta get that hot dog in. And then Shane O'Reilly follows up again with a €1 fiddy phallic unicorn. Right, so that's the super chat's gone through. Thank you very much indeed, folks. Discovery.
Wait a minute. Wait, I forgot. Wait, what was the super chat? Now I forgot that I
the first one, which you were thinking on. Yes.
I was thinking, and the phrasing.
Here we go. This is Mahir Hake with a $5 super chat. Are you aware of the Dances with Wolves 2020 Steelbook? Is this a worthy purchase? Growing my physical media collection, and I like this movie.
Okay. I was trying to hunt around and I didn't find that. So first of all, I love Dances with Wolves, which is what I want to say. I love it. I love the extended version even more than I like the regular version. And the real question is, with physical media, is it something that you love? Is it something? And having a steelbook, I'm going to show you something that I got that I got this week. People are going to laugh at me. One of my favorite exploitation movies. I'm giving you a taste of the new episode of
Black Mambo.
No. One of my favorite movies when I was growing up, from 1976. That a movie that would never, ever, 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 ever get made today is this: Massacre at Central High.
Wow.
And Don May's Synapse Films. They've restored this. They've lovingly restored this. It's a steel book. And basically, this movie, first of all, it just delivers on every level. It was very hard to find. It's almost been out of print. It's been out of print for a long, long time. It's basically about this school that's ruled over by, jock assholes. A new kid comes to school and decides that, you know what? I'm gonna fix the school by basically, I'm gonna take out all these guys. All these people that wrong all these other students, I'm just going to kill them all. Bomb them, blow them up, whatever I can do.
It was an innocent age.
and yeah, it was. And the thing is, this movie now seems, you watch it and you look at it and go, oh my God, because of what's happened in the American school system for so long. But the fact that they put it out in a steelbook, and that Don May and Synapse Films did this. So what I like about buying movies, physical media, especially when they come out in steelbooks and things, I like when movies are honored, and when you can find, if you love a movie and somebody puts it out in a beautiful bit of packaging, I almost feel that it's required of me to buy these things, because it's showing that I know that how good this movie is, and your video company has chosen, because it's not like the company that produced Massacre at Central High is putting it out. It's that Don May at Synapse, he went after this movie like he did with Dario Argento's Suspiria, and he bought it.
Hey, a lot of people like Suspiria. It's got a big cult. Well, it's got a cult following. Suspiria.
Yeah. I mean, even Scream Factory, as I'm looking at this, or Shout Factory.
Hell, they remade the goddamn film.
I know, right? This is. You might ask yourself, what is this? This is Big Trouble in Little China. And this is a box set, and it comes, the fact that they did this, the Pork Chop Express itself, Jack Burton's truck, and in it comes with the best of both worlds. As I don't know why I can't get this box open. It comes with a vinyl of the Big Trouble in Little China song, and it's got some of the tracks of the soundtrack
7-inch.
And it's 7-inch. And look at this. On green vinyl with one of the hats of the Three Storms on it. How can you not want? I mean, if this isn't honoring a movie that never got its due in 1986 when it came out, I mean, how can you not? How can you not?
Such a good film as well.
It's so much fun.
So good. Yeah,
and that's why I love physical media. So yes, the short answer, the long answer is buy that Dances with Wolves.
Kurt Russell. So, as a cinephile,
yes,
I have a question for you.
I'll try and answer it.
Russ Meyer.
Yes.
Artist or just likes big tits?
Artist. Absolutely artist. I recently, we watched on my girlfriend Elizabeth and I do this whining about movie show. We watched Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Oh, really? Right. Okay.
It's my happening and it freaks me out. No, I love Russ Meyer. And I think, look, was Russ Meyer obsessed with boobs and all that? Yes. But I think that he was doing something that was based. I mean, he came out of, he was in World War II, and he learned how to shoot and photograph in World War II. And he came out and his predilections, I mean, were on display for the world. And he did some really interesting things editorially and photographically alone that are worth watching. And, especially now, if you look back at the world that we live in, a guy like Russ Meyer would be pilloried if he was alive today.
Yes.
And the thing is, to love what he loved, I mean, his obsession with curvy, vivacious, Zoftic women with large bazoombas. I mean, he loved women, and he loved or bodacious tatas, as Keith David said in Officer and a Gentleman about Lisa Blount. And somehow, like I don't necessarily think that Russ Meyer's love of the female form is a bad thing. I mean, he worshiped that, and it was something that people would say, well, that's all he cared about. No, I don't think so. I mean, if you look at the women he cast on, I mean, he had very powerful, dominating women, and of course it was his thing. But Russ Meyer was an artist, definitely an artist.
Yay!
All right, now have I justified your love of his movies?
Yeah, I can't get enough.
Yeah, I know you can't get. How can you not get?
Faster.
Kill. Come on! I mean, it's so good. I love that movie, by the way. Faster Pussycat Kill.
And then Bamagrad snuck in with a $10 super chat. Hey, Az and Rob, you've never talked about number 6's humanity. He did unspeakable things for Queen and Country, yet he wouldn't buy candy for an old lady. Yet he would buy candy for an old lady or get revenge for a villager-driven suicide. We've often talked about his humanity.
Yeah, we have, and especially about his chivalrous nature as far as women are concerned.
Yeah, we've talked about his humanity often when it comes to these sort of things, and it's part of his inbuilt morality.
Yes,
which is one of his defining qualities. But as we saw today, he treats life. He does honor and respect life. There are certain things he's had to do in his life where he went to war and he killed, according to records. Let's say those records are true.
Right.
He did what he had to do. You can't go into war a pacifist, as you're going to get killed. So it's not necessarily saying he did unspeakable things for Queen and Country. He did his duty for Queen and Country. Yep. He was fighting against a Nazi wave coming over Europe that had enveloped Europe and was sat on the west coast of France, waiting to come across and take the UK. And that's where Britain said no more, no further. And they never did. They never got further. And, of course, the rest is history. D-Day, June 6, 44. where we pushed back, and yeah, so it's not trying to castigate you in any way, shape, or form, but it's easy to say unspeakable things. But he probably, because this is a fictional character, but let's just put it in terms of a real life soldier. They put everything on the line for our freedoms today, everything, and a lot of them lost. So, Martino Salamoni with 66666 6666666. Gillian Frakes again. Why do you suppose my gender is binary? I identify as a plasma aurora. CHF equals Swiss francs, not Gillian Frakes. Swiss.
That's better.
You got great banks over there. Very clean streets as well. And they're pretty neutral about most things. So, and great chocolate. And Roger Federer.
And Davos. I've been skiing in Davos.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. It's phenomenal.
I've never skied in my life.
Oh, there's nothing better than skiing in Switzerland. And then having New Year's Eve at a Russian club in Zurich.
Oh, wow.
Let me tell you.
That'll be good fun.
That was a good trip, that was.
Yeah, I bet that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yes, it was.
200-watt studio with a $2 super chat says, you missed my super chat. Holy cow, did I? Let me go back. I am sorry. Yes, I did. I do apologize. Here we go. A 200-watt studio with a $5 super chat. Rob, that's what I was getting at when I mentioned the job connection to the prisoner to you guys here 5 or 6 episodes ago. Yeah, the self-insert of Magoon. Well, it was obvious. I mean, that whole thing was pretty much inserted from time began. We're over the 2 hours, but just quickly, Rob. This last week's Star Trek Discovery.
Oh boy.
The episode where they had 25 minutes of story and then they had to just fill the rest of the episode up with commenting on the scene that they'd just done before. How is this even being made? Is the question I'd like to pose.
Okay. I just do not understand, first of all, like, how have they made a future, a 32nd century future, so unimaginative? I mean, we're going to scrap yards where it's just.
Oh, I think that's called not getting Netflix's money anymore. I think that's what that's called.
I just, every single episode is Michael Burnham, Space Jesus. I feel like I'm not watching any kind of an ensemble character show. I mean, the original series, what I loved about Star Trek, and somebody took me to task on one of the Star Trek BBS message boards. I was going to answer this, but they closed. The moderator, who was dissing on me anyway, personal attacks on me, closed the board and said that they were asking, like, oh, Rob Burnett says, if you don't watch the original series or you haven't watched the original series, you're like not a Star Trek fan. Well, that's not true. The point I was trying to make is that Star Trek is the original series.
Yeah,
everything else is a derivative work.
Even if you started in Next Generation and loved Next Generation,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Your curiosity would automatically push you to TOS anyway.
Yeah, and the funny thing that I have is, like, I am not the person that's defending the greatness of the original series. History itself has. And the fact that Star Trek was a show that never before in history had people seen conventions like Star Trek conventions. Never before in history did a failed, well, quote unquote, failed TV series spawn a $44 million motion picture. that they brought back all the original actors a decade later and put them on the big screen, which then inspired another film, another motion picture series that led to Star Trek: The Next Generation. So Star Trek, the original series, place in history is not up for debate. And I don't have to defend it because history has already anointed the original Star Trek what it is. And to me, my point is that to understand Star Trek itself, you have to go back. It's just like if you're going to understand Sherlock Holmes and all you've ever seen is the Lucy Liu show with Elementary. If you're watching Elementary, you can't.
It's a good show, though.
It is a good show. It is a good show, but don't presume to know what Arthur Conan Doyle was getting at when And I think that's been sort of forgotten. And what I find really interesting is like I never pillory people on the internet based on their opinions of a show. I would never go after somebody and tell somebody, one, they shouldn't watch something, or two,
I'll tell them don't watch Discovery.
Well, yeah, I've said that. I'll say I think it's a bad show, but I'm not going to be like, oh, if you watch it, you're an idiot. I watch Discovery. I watch it every episode, and I fucking hate it. And I go into every episode waiting and go like, you know what? Maybe today.
Do you watch it to monetize it, or do you watch it for a hope at entertainment? I watch it, but I watch it for monetization.
No, I love Star Trek, and for me, people are like, well, you don't watch it. Star Trek has been a lifelong interest of mine, and so I'm also interested in it from an anthropological sense and also an entertainment industry sense, because I think it's actually bad television that is being allowed to succeed because it has enough of an audience. But if it was any other franchise, I don't think it would succeed. I think it would have been canceled.
Does it have enough of an audience?
I mean, I don't mean it certainly doesn't have the kind of audience Next Generation had at its height, but they're keeping it around for a specific reason. And I mean, I don't think that how anybody who is any at all discerning could watch what they did with Picard and be like, oh, that was good.
I'm going to be the most cynical man in the world now. Do you know why I think it's got a 4th season?
It's also got a 5th season, by the way. They were both renewed at the same time, but they haven't said that. Yeah.
This probably then goes even better, so they could be Enterprise.
Well, that could be true.
So they could have more seasons than Enterprise.
Can I spoil something?
There's nothing that you could do that would spoil Discovery more than they have done themselves.
Okay, there's an upcoming 2-parter called Terra Firma. If you guys like Discovery, don't. And in this, they bring back the Guardian of Forever. That's right. They went. And in the original conception of Harlan Ellison's script, the Guardian of Forever was personified by a guy. He was like a dude. Will they do that?
Not be a black woman.
I've said
non-binary. Non-binary.
But basically, they've turned the Guardian of Forever into a dude, into a sort of an old, let's say perhaps a Doctor Who like character. So they've added their own riff on the Guardian of Forever, which people are going to say, yes, but it harks back to the original Harlan Ellison script. Well, yeah, but that wasn't canonical. But they're going to say, look at how clever we are. And they use it for a number of different things, not one of which is to set up the Section 31 show.
Nobody's gonna watch that show.
Well, it's such a fundamental lack of the Star Trek, the writing staff of how they've done Section 31 is a fundamental lack. What was so great about Section 31 and Deep Space Nine? It was one guy.
Yeah,
it was one guy.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
And but I mean, and Enterprise had one guy too, who was actually, both of them were great. Both, yes. The actors are great, and the way that Section 31 was personified. That's in Star Trek Discovery. We've got a headquarters, and everybody knows who we are, and we've got membership badges, and look at my black insignia. I mean, the whole thing about Section 31 is you should never know ever. And I would think that's what is apparent and it's not. It's not what I find interesting about these shows is none of it tracks well. Like now I'm having arguments about whether the refit Discovery should have an A on it. Should it be this Discovery A? And then I get into these arguments about, well,
it has got an A on it.
It has got an A on it now, but before a ship had to be destroyed. It had to be lost before they give it an A. And then people are like, well, according to Starfleet records, it was destroyed. And it's like, okay.
No, but it wasn't. That's the records, but it wasn't, though.
It wasn't destroyed.
It was there. You fucking idiot.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's like, this is my problem. They think that's a clever callback.
It's not. It's not.
And now people are like I love the fact that there's a Starship Nog in the future. Look, I loved Aaron Eisenberg. I went to a Star Trek convention in Paris with Aaron Eisenberg once. I love the man. He was a delight. But the idea that a show that's set 950 years in the future is going to honor or have the name of an officer.
It should have been the USS Eisenberg.
That's what it should have been. Yep. Yes, it should have. And it's just like I'm
so fucking thick.
And it's just
look, it's right next to the USS fucking Spot -C. Because that's 3.
I mean, also the Eisenberg would have been it would have been much more of an honorarium because you're in canonical Star Trek history. Is Nog a name that is going to last 1,000 years in the galaxy? I mean, I'm sure Nog is great. He later becomes a captain.
We all know the answer to that question, Rob. apart from the people that are involved in the show.
Yeah, anyway,
they look at the back of boxes of DVDs and they say, "Oh, there's a Nog in this one. Let's put him in. Let's make a Starship Nog." And people go, "Oh, that's Deep Space Nine," because they all think you're as stupid as they are.
I just think the way that Starfleet works and all the insubordination and I'm finally glad Michael Burnham was finally someone said, I mean, she should be let go from the show. I would if Star Trek Discovery was cool, I would, but no, we're doing Unification 3, which I'm gonna have to watch at midnight tonight because you guys, in the 5th season of TNG there was Unification 1 and 2.
Yeah,
so now we're going to do Unification 3.
So is it just going to be called Unification 3 because they go to Romulus? No,
I guess,
but Romulus is destroyed in this universe. So they meet Romulans. So it's called Unification 3.
I don't know. I think it's bad Star Trek. I think it's bad science fiction. But most of all, I think it's bad storytelling. And the problem is, I get why people like it because you know what it does?
I don't.
Well, there are people that I think that are responding to almost every episode now. We get 2 people having some speech or having the emotional feels.
No, but it's not emotional.
Well, I think it's all unearned, and it has nothing to do with the storytelling at hand.
It's not unearned. It's not emotional. You crying doesn't elicit emotion from me.
No, it doesn't for me either.
You're saying that elicits emotion and how it's being received. But every emotional scene that they do, they're just tears in eyes, lumps in throats, and broken speech because you're doing the right thing. That's not emotional.
And I can't, as you pointed out, and I was thinking about, so they give the they give the Discovery all these upgrades, and now you've got personal transporters and everything. But apparently, you're going to wear
the school children got as they were lined up in the row.
Yeah, 1,000-year-old uniforms. Like, are you part of Starfleet or not? And somebody's telling me, like, that's so they can differentiate people on the Discovery from. I'm like,
no.
Like, if you're gonna
like today's army. And a bunch of fucking Knights of the Round Table walk in. They go, "Oh, you keep your suits of armor, boys. Keep them. Keep your suits of armor." It's not as if fabric has changed in the last 1,000 years.
They have all this technology, but I'm still wearing gabardine, or whatever.
We're now totally wool, 100% wool here at stuff.
I mean, I can't, and that's the thing. The show compounds these little things that drive me insane, and then I keep waiting for them to tell me a story, a decent story. Other than there's apparently everyone in this universe is broken. It's their generic. Everything has to be fixed. Every single person is suffering from PTSD, or is angry, or is mean. And why is it that Michael Burnham thinks she knows more than anybody in this universe?
Oh, that's because she's a.
I mean, why do you know? Why do you think you know about everything? You never shut up. You're like, if I went 1,000 years, I know more about how I should conduct myself 1,000 years from now than anybody on the Discovery does. I mean, they've gone back to Starfleet, and at every turn, they're constantly bitching and moaning and complaining and telling all these people what to do with themselves, when really they should shut the fuck up and listen. And take stock.
But she's educating you, Robert.
I find it monumentally insulting, because I'm like, okay, what would it be like to go 1,000 years into the future? What would it be like? Well, apparently, I mean, aside from moping and being sad and all this, I mean, you're in Starfleet. You should be able to take a 5-year journey without seeing they've been gone for a couple of weeks into the future, and it's like they're
breakdown.
Yeah, they're not even back from Christmas break yet, as far as in terms of being in the future. And oh my God, and they've already been back to Earth. Like, what is their problem? And it drives me insane. Like, can't they look in the records and go, oh, you know what? Kirk and Spock, they took a Klingon bird of prey. They were able to slingshot around the sun and go back in time, and we can get back home anytime we want. It's so, and they've already did a short trek, the Calypso short trek, where the Discovery was abandoned for 1,000 years in this cloud or whatever.
And it didn't have an A.
No, it wasn't refit.
They don't think these things through.
I mean, I know they can retcon it and they can figure that out. And maybe in the future, we're going to find out what happened and why the Discovery was already left there. But I feel that I'm watching a show that is written by people that have never read or watched science fiction. And
I'm
it drives me
hoping
crazy.
It was there because they all died horribly.
I just, and this whole idea of the burn, their collapsed civilization, it's like they watch Mad Max, and it's like, well, they got rid of gas in the future, so what's the equivalent of gas? Or, oh yeah, we'll get rid of dilithium.
Blowing and then a car doesn't blow up every car on the universe.
Yeah, well, and but I think about that, and I'm thinking, okay, so now you wanted a generic catastrophe that you've applied to the entire galaxy. That kind of thing.
These have differentiating rules, because apparently every ship got blown up, and then only ships who were at warp got blown up.
Well, and then
which one was it?
All of subspace. And apparently all of these ships were orbiting or near planets, because every planet they go to has the generic wreckage of starships orbiting around it. And I'm like, are you people out of your minds? Like, it is to me, a monumental failure of imagination. But I tune in every week. I do, man.
Where should we park? Oh, just make yourself over to that huge blood debris ships.
Yeah, like the Discovery doesn't have deflectors.
Look, I am still waiting for one person to just lose their shit on the bridge and just go, doesn't anybody know how to use a deflector in his ship? Kurtzman has the showrunner, Kurtzman, the writers, none of them understand what a deflector is. Not one person.
No, and the whole idea that you have a navigational deflector to sweep debris away from and a navigational deflector can repel micrometeorites as you power up to the speed of light.
As they said, how do you think things are going to go when you're going at warp speed? That's why you have a deflector.
I watch this kind of stuff, and it's all people hugging and kissing, and I'm like, I'm waiting for a good story.
Sorry, Robert, I don't want to interrupt you, but it's not. It's all men hugging and kissing, and women hugging and kissing, but there's no men and women really hugging and kissing.
No, and I yes, and the This idea that here's another thing. I actually find this offensive. So you have a non-binary person, a trans person, and a gay actor.
Yeah.
And on the show, they've now
is the doctor gay as well? He sounds gay. He's very effeminate.
Stamets is gay, but what they've done is they've now taken on the show.
Is his partner also gay, but also gay in real life?
Yes. So they've cast, and now they've made it so the gay doctor, the non-binary character, and their trans boyfriend are now a group of people within the show, within the universe. It's like this LGBTQ. They've segregated themselves. It's so strange to me. I'm like, you want to show inclusion, which I'm all for, but now you've made a show where all your LGBTQ people they're the ones that are friends. And I'm like, what? How is that? I had a friend of mine, one of my dear friends, who is gay, and I've known this person for decades, and said to me, "How have you been watching? How offensive this is?" I mean, this guy's a real activist. His father was like at Stonewall or something, and he's like, I have never seen a more offensive portrayal of LGBTQ people. They're like, what we have to be? Are they going to give us our separate barracks on the Discovery?
Separate uniforms.
And he was so pissed, and I was like, whoa. And he's like, you know what? We fight so hard for inclusion, and I don't want to be defined by my sexuality. I am a person.
I'm sorry, in Hollywood, that's all you're going to be defined by. Or your color, or your sexual orientation.
But that's not how you were defined in Hollywood when they were making Deep Space Nine.
No, Hollywood's now run by regressive old fucking left. Crazy.
But look at The Expanse, another show where gender and race, everybody's kind of mixed. They've done a great job of having all kinds of male, female characters, strong women, strong characters across the board, multi-ethnic people, and they don't.
Season 5 goes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the one thing about The Expanse is, by the way, season 5, if they follow to the book, the shit's gonna hit the fan, and it's
gonna end after season 6. They confirmed.
In an awesome way. Well, what's good about the book? Spoiler alert if you haven't. The 7th book in the series jumps ahead 30 years, so it's a natural ending place for the show to end after book 6. So, but I mean, the Star Trek Discovery, in every single way, shape, and form, I feel that it does make me want to scoop my eyeballs out with a teaspoon. And I as somebody who's a student of Star Trek. And when I say student, I've been studying the Star Trek as a genre unto itself, and also how much I read and movies I watch. I just don't understand. I watch this movie and I'm like, or watch every episode, and I'm like, how did you sit in a room and break these scripts and read them and decide this is what we're moving forward with?
But aren't you glad Mikey Burnham gave Saru the okay to demote her?
I mean, why isn't she in the brig?
You're doing the right thing. I would have turned around and fired her I would have fired her ass ages ago anyway. But if she said that to me after I just demoted her, I would have fucking thrown her out of a window, a clear aluminum with glass. My God, she's insufferably written. I think the actress is pretty insufferable, but she's written insufferably. I think insufferably for an insufferable person, and so it just comes across unbelievably.
Well, you know, like in Walking Dead, I think she's a really good actress. I think she's a beautiful woman, and I just don't understand.
Skin deep, Robert.
I know, but they're writing her horribly. And this idea that you know, she's coming back after, well, I've been on my own for a year, but I'm so happy to find my crew. She's acting so out of character for a Starfleet officer, just running off and doing these things like,
dude, none of them have ever acted like Starfleet.
No, that's true. It's true. But I mean, here they're in a tense situation, and she's going to go run off and rescue Book, who, by the way, looks like he had his prison break ready to go. Like he had a plan, and she comes in and then she comes in and gums up the works. It's just a terribly written program.
Woo, there you go, folks. Those are for the people who wanted their little bit of Star Trek talk at the end of the episode.
Sorry if I spoiled Terra Firma for everybody, but
no, they'd already spoiled it by it going to air, so don't worry about that. Next week over on your channel, the finale.
Oh my God!
It all ends here. Well, for the original Prisoner series, Fallout. The final and 17th episode of The Prisoner, 8 p.m. GMT over at Robert's channel, midday Pacific over on Robert's channel. Looking forward to that because that could
it's gonna be fun.
We're gonna discuss that one. Robert, anything you'd like to plug before we go, sir?
Well, I've got the last week of the intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival over on my channel. I've got a lot of talented filmmakers who are sending me movies, and you can come watch them. And if you want to make a film, if you get your application form in by December 1st, you can have until December 15th to actually give us your movie. So we just got another great movie from Ireland that I put up yesterday called Bed Bug. It was the second entry of this filmmaking team. That's a lot of fun. Watch their movie Crawl Space and then watch their movie Bed Bug. A lot more to come. I'm getting movies all the time. And I'm going to be debuting a bunch tomorrow over the Thanksgiving holiday every hour for a while. So that should be fun. And come check it out. And you can find me on my YouTube channel. That is The Burnett Work on YouTube.
Check it out. Huge thank you to all of you for turning out tonight. Massive thank you to you guys and gals who smacked that super chat button as well. Keeps the channels going. Big thanks to my mods, Purple Valkyrie, sweetheart as always, for moderating the chat. Not that they need moderating, these are wonderful people, but for moderating the chat, putting out those links and everything like that. You're an absolute super trooper. Oh my goodness me, we're gonna have to have a talk, you and I.
Yes.
About where we go next.
We've got a few things. We do have a one-off show that we've been talking about doing.
Yes.
And I
one-off show.
I want to do our one-off show.
And then we've got some other ideas about different things, and then we got the 2009 Prisoner to go through.
Yes, we decided we're gonna do that.
So I think, yeah. So maybe do yours, and then we'll do the one-off, and then we'll start the 2009, and then maybe do the other thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got things that we can do. We got
that'll
ideas,
take us
folks.
deep into 2021.
Oh hell yeah! Which hopefully 2021 will go deep.
And we know we're getting seasons 4 and 5 of Discovery. So we'll always have something to follow up our chats with.
My goodness me. It's going to be, by season 5, it will look like TOS with the budget that they're going to have.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't know.
Thank God there's only like 8 episodes or 10 episodes a season.
I know. I mean, my pain only lingers. That's another thing. I was actually, to be honest, I was really looking forward to this season of Discovery. Honestly, I wanted to see what they were going to do with the future, and I thought it would be really. And I'm like, wow.
No, they have to make it as miserable as they want the present to be.
Right. It's the Road Warrior. I want they should have the Lord Humongous show up, the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla. Just like in the Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, and
we can't do intergalactic travel and look at the beauties of Earth and what we can do. Why is every planet, just because you don't have dilithium, look like a shithole?
Well, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. Earth looks okay, and now
why can't we have?
Okay, and if they can refit the Discovery, why isn't every Federation ship now equipped with a spore drive?
Yes.
That would have been the first thing they would have done. And Stamets needing tardigrade DNA, they would have taken his DNA and they would have made people who could then run their own spore drives or whatever. It is the 32nd. It's the 32nd century after all. Can't they do that?
16-year-old girl retrofit it for them.
I mean, she came in and redesigned their. I'm like, if
she has no idea existed.
I mean, if you go in and redesign that ship, couldn't you then do it for everybody? You've now made the spore drive work in the 20th or the 32nd century. You know, why not just go do it for every ship? It makes no sense.
Because the show fucking sucks. Right. There we go, folks. We'll see you next Wednesday at the predetermined times. Your homework for the final time with this Prisoner series is to watch Fallout. Until then, be seeing you, Robert.
Be seeing you.
It's a
salute.
It is a salute.